So what an honor and a pleasure, Leona, to have you. And first, I want to welcome you as part of our family and our community of young Russian Jews. And anybody who ever went with us on the trip or was part of our program, RAJE is part of the family. So it's my great honor to introduce you once again to our extended family. And I would love to start with a question that I was actually asked just a few minutes ago. One of our friends on Facebook, actually currently in Israel, texted me and said, I don't understand. COVID-19 and relationship, and this will be covered by a divorce attorney? I said, yes. So the question to you, why you as an attorney who deals with marriages and divorces, and when I offered you a topic, you decided to choose this topic, COVID-19 and relationships.
So Rabbi, thank you so much for having me on. That is a fantastic question. So the way I see my role as a matrimonial attorney and matrimonial mediator is to help my clients reach their goals. Now, I say this regularly, if it turns out that everybody who got married today and tomorrow never needed to see me for a divorce ever, and I had to find another line of business, I would be very happy. Okay, I want to strengthen relationships if in fact they can be strengthened and both parties are willing to do that. And if not, we can always chat about next steps and other options. But one thing that I do regularly, nearly every day, is post little known matrimonial facts, post videos and guidance on strengthening relationships between partners, family members, and with children. And I think that strong relationships are incredibly important. And since I hear all about failed relationships a whole lot, I have special insight into what people can do to make their relationships work and work for longer.
Thank you so much. An amazing answer. I wanted to bring maybe another, with your permission, spiritual perspective. We at the time of mourning for the destruction of the temple. From today, 9 days, and 9th of Av is a day where we lost our temple, we lost Jerusalem, we were expelled. And our tradition teaches us that from destruction, you learn how to rebuild. And if our rabbis taught us that the destruction happened because of us hating each other, because of baseless hatred among Jews, it's an important lesson. It's not about the Romans, it's not about them, it's about us. If we would be united, it would not happen. So you probably have firsthand experiences when relationships failed and how unfortunately families got separated. So too, you can probably give us very important lessons to learn how to keep families together and actually how to create families as well.
Yes. So I'd be happy to share several pointers that I learned as I went along. So the first is communication. Okay, and it's really, really easy to have communication fall by the wayside, especially the longer you're in a relationship with somebody. So what I recommend is this. First of all, as soon as your partner walks through that door, I don't care if you're playing a video game, unless literally you're in a conversation with somebody else, get up, give them a big hug, and let them know that you're happy that they're home. Because it doesn't really seem to matter to them, whether they came home or not. That doesn't feel so good, right? And ask them how their day went and really listen and ask follow-up questions, right? So my husband's a doctor. Do I understand every single procedure he does? No. Do I know what the names of all the things mean? No. Can I still ask him what he had for lunch that day? Yes. And does it show that I care about him a little bit more instead of how was your day? Good, goodbye. Back to our phones, right? So take the time to ask your partner about how their day went. Ask questions that aren't just yes or no questions. That's one. Another thing that's really important, that's done a whole lot at the beginning of the relationship, is compliments. Guys, compliments feel so good. And it's really easy, instead of compliments, to do nagging. Hey, you didn't take out the garbage. Hey, you didn't put the toilet seat back down. Guys, we can always do that. But what if Instead of, hey, take out the garbage, honey, I really appreciate it when you blank. So what I do with my husband actually is we have something called relationship review, where every single Sunday night we sit down and talk about three things. The first is all the ways the other person went above and beyond that week, and we thank them for that. Let me tell you, some of the things my husband remembers I totally forgot about. And it feels so nice because now during the week, I'm thinking about all the ways in which my husband was awesome instead of all the ways in which my husband kind of let us down, or the bad things he did, or the things I didn't like. And then we talk about what could have gone better. Okay, what bothered me, what bothered him. And usually it's silly little things, right? One time, I'm short, my husband's taller. I put away the dishes and I left the cabinet door open. Guess what? He bonked his head. It hurt, right? So, hey, Leona, next time can you please close the cabinet door so I don't hit my head? Yes. Now every time that I am doing the dishes, I make sure to remember that and close the doors because I'm not hitting my head because I'm under them all, but he does. And then finally, what we need to do to make sure that thing never happens again. What do we need to put into place? And then we let it go. We let the negative stuff go, understanding that the other person is going to work on it because now they know. Don't bring it up again. That thing they did 5 years ago, don't bring it up again. Let it go. As new things come up, target them. Don't make it personal, right? You did this thing and I didn't like it and it hurt my feelings / I bonked my head instead of you're a bad person, right? So I'd say those things are pretty helpful.
Unbelievable. I have to tell you, unbelievable. I saw in one book where it stated that dialogue is like a blood to the body. When you have a dialogue, the body is alive. But when there is no dialogue, there's no life. So when you said communication, it is force of life. And I heard 4 lessons. I'm not sure, I didn't write them down, but on the first one, I want to comment. Maybe you'll help us to review them. First of all, you said when person comes home, show you're happy. It's such a simple thing. And I remember when my wife and we got married, we were newlyweds, and I believe you also know how long you married?
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years. I remember how you got married. Wow, time flies. Okay, so by me it was about how many years? Like 36, but it also like yesterday. So when we got married, and I remember I came from yeshiva, I was a yeshiva student earlier, and my wife didn't expect me, and she was cleaning the floor, and she asked me, "Oh, you came earlier?" And I was offended. She didn't understand why. Maybe she's watching this and laughing because we were talking about this, and like maybe I was too sensitive or not. But I really felt that what you said is so important. Can you imagine? 36 years later, I remember how once my wife asked, "Oh, you came?" She was surprised I came. And I didn't understand. She's surprised happy, or she was surprised that I disturbed the procedure of washing the floor. You understand? And I remember 36 years later. So it's such an important lesson. So I want to really encourage all my viewers, please listen to this amazing, amazing advice. So when someone comes, beautiful. Now, lesson number 2, maybe I'll still remember. A Jew in Hebrew means Yehudi, thankful. When Yehuda, the 4th child, was born, the rabbis explains it was because Leah, who had him as the 4th child, expressed a feeling, oh, I thought I'm going to have only 3 children because there were 12 tribes and 4 women, and I thought I'm going to have 3. And now the 4th child, I don't deserve it. I received more than I deserve. So the rabbis say, what does it mean to be a Jew? Anything you get, don't take it for granted. Because taking it for granted is taking joy from your life. And gratitude and ability to thank is actually key for your own personal happiness. Not only sharing happiness with another person and thanking him or her, but also it's important for your own positive charge. That was the second lesson, correct?
Correct.
Third one, what was the third one you said?
The third one is having a safe time and place to talk about things that can use improvement. Okay, so instead of stirring up the negativity, having a specific place and time to talk about it.
It is so unbelievable. I have to tell you, if even I came to this interview to learn this from you, I am so grateful to you for that. And first of all, Leona, I didn't even ask you yet. Maybe you'll, within the interview, tell us more about yourself. I was born in Moscow and I grew up, I was raised in Soviet society, in Soviet country. We were living in a totalitarian regime. They call it in Russian vertikal vlasti. From the time of Ivan the Terrible and Stalin and others, people learned how to not to say what they really think, how to hide their true feelings, and how not to be confrontational, and how to be like cooking it in within yourself. So it's a huge problem in the relationship unless you know how to express your feelings, not in an aggressive way, but also not to become pliant, but rather in an equal way, in a sense of equality and respect and self-respect and dignity. I don't know, there's nothing more important than that. This is actually the foundation of self-esteem and firmness at the same time. And you say you set up a specific time, not only when you feel hurt, you decide not to keep quiet because you know that harboring resentment will backfire. Don't do it. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for your feelings. You're not going to be able to hide them for a long period of time. You will need to share it, and because you also need to do it in a respectful way. So if you do that, how would you suggest to approach a person about certain things that you were not happy with? You basically gave one example. Don't say, you're a terrible person. Say, I bang my head, correct? Maybe a little bit elaborate, because that is extremely important, how to do it respectfully, but still with respect to yourself.
Absolutely. All right. So when there are hurt feelings, when somebody does something that the other person doesn't like. So another personal example before I read in a book all about relationship review was when my husband and I were newlyweds, and I went to the store and without chatting with him about it first, found towels that were on sale, bought the towels. Now they were not terribly expensive. To me, not a big deal. To him, he felt that this was a purchase towards our family home. And he was upset because he thought that I should talk to him about it. Yes, we're getting the towels. Here they are. Here we go. Joint decision, when I didn't think it was a big deal. Now it bothered him. And so his original response was to get very quiet. And we didn't talk for a little while he processed his feelings. So I went a little quiet and we had very separate time. And, eventually we got around to talking about it. But by instituting relationship review in our lives, by having a place to talk about it, it's also created a structure. And so the structure is where we talk about the thing that the other person did that hurt our feelings. Right? Hey, honey, I didn't like the fact that you da 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 da, and it made me feel this way. Right? So it's not a personal attack. It's explaining to the other person what they did that caused me to have hurt feelings. All right? And so then they understand, they explain their side. And then the next step is, okay, so what do we do next time? Because if that part's not discussed, guess what? Next time I might go and get a set of plates, or we're going to have the same mess again, right? So making sure to discuss the plan going forward means now you've made a change. And guess what? It's not as painful a thing to think of going back, because there's a plan to go forward.
Unbelievably important. I was even wondering, thinking, why do you suggest that we should actually have a specific time and place and speak about it? And I'm just guessing Because sometimes if you will respond immediately, it will not be a good idea because you're still acting irrationally, because the pain is irrational and it's a feeling, and the judgment is still not taking control over your behavior and your words, and you may regret it later on. So the fact that sometimes we kind of um, take a pause, there's really nothing wrong with that. Okay, so think about it, but don't overthink. Either find the right time, the right place, the next day, the next week, or whenever it is, or have specific times when you can sit down and talk about this, and that is the place and time we discuss, so to speak, difficult things, right? And if there's nothing to talk about, it's so beautiful, correct? And and if there is something to talk, we know it's a safe place. In other words, you create like safe havens.
Exactly.
Amazing idea. I learned something new. Tremendous. And the fourth point was?
So another point was, letting go. Letting go.
Wow.
Oh, it's so easy, especially when we're flustered, when we're upset or angry or furious or frustrated. Now we're thinking emotionally as opposed to logically, and very often the emotional arguments aren't very logical at all. Instead, they're attacks. Hey, you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back, right? And we don't mean to do it. We say sorry afterwards. But what's really important is when we're talking about that thing that the other person did that hurt our feelings, to make sure that it's never personal. That it's, oh, you did this thing, let's talk about this thing, instead of you are this as a person. Okay, because it's very, very hard to walk back from that. And even an I'm sorry and a hug and a kiss will make it feel a little bit better, but there's still that emotional impact that you won't have if you keep bringing it up, right? So that thing that happened 20 years ago, let's let it rest unless it keeps happening over and over and over again. All right, so no using the past and past experiences and past troubles in present and future arguments.
I want to thank you once again on that, because actually letting it go is an art of forgiveness. It's an essential, maybe most important, if there's anything most important, is a quality of mercy and forgiveness. And you'll be surprised that Maimonides basically states in the Code of Jewish Law that if you see a Jew who is not forgiving and not kind to forgive and let it go, like our father Abraham did, you can question his Jewishness. Can you imagine this?
Wow.
You
That's
can
pretty curious.
It is unbelievable, because essentially someone taking revenge, someone hurting, someone who is cruel not to forgive. This is the Jewish law. You can question this person's Jewishness, and person should question his own sanity in Jewishness. This is essentially the holiness of the soul. This is where the soul rests. We have Yom Kippur that we practice once a year, and we asking for forgiveness before Yom Kippur. We need to remember you can ask for forgiveness only when you forgave yourself, and to the degree you forgave others, you will be forgiven. And no one will forgive you if you did not learn how to forgive others. So it requires a lot of, maybe even faith, even though we're not talking about religion, but we need then to accept the reality, or that everything that happened, even painful experiences and whatever I went through, it was supposed to happen. And I need, from now on, I need to move forward and learn from it. Whatever didn't break me made me stronger. And I'm grateful for every single experience, even painful, because I became richer spiritually, and I'm moving forward, forgiving everyone around me. Not a person who's not able to forgive is in pain. And Rabbi Dr. Tversky writes about it, and he says it's like someone who rents a free space in his head, especially to his enemy. It's a poison that destroys his own soul, which is the main reason for addiction. And Dr. Tversky, who's a great expert in addiction, he said the very reason why Alcoholics Anonymous became so tremendously successful in saving lives because many, many years ago, they figured out this secret that people in pain because they don't know how to forgive, harboring resentments, and they are searching for painkillers. It may be alcohol, maybe heroin, or maybe even work, escaping, but escaping from their own sense of pain and shame that they don't know how to deal with. So what you said is unbelievable goal. Tremendous. Thank you so much. So continue your presentation.
All right. So, other important things regarding relationships are to schedule time together. Okay, so Rabbi, you and I scheduled this time to jump onto this live conversation. That was important. And in work, we've been trained to stick to those events that we have scheduled. And so, my recommendation for all couples is to schedule together time with your partner. So, whether it's date night, whether it's, some couples do what's called wine o'clock at a certain hour, either every day or every week or a couple times a week. They grab a glass of wine, and whether it's at their kitchen table, whatever it is, that is their time where the phones are gone. They're not looking at the screens. They're not spending time doing anything except for spending time together. And as important as work meetings are, relationship meetings or dates or whatever you want to call them are just as important and should be happening at least once, if not multiple times per week. And those dates should have the focus as really spending time with your partner, talking with your partner, doing activities together, taking a walk, having a meal. But this is time devoted specifically to you two, where we're not picking up the phone if it rings. This is special time. You can call them back after. So that's very important. That's one. Another one is making sure, especially during COVID-19 times, where we're under the same roof and spending way more time together with our partners, maybe the kids, than we ever had before, to schedule separate time. My husband and I call this separate but together time sometimes, where he does his thing, I do mine. We might even be on the couch together, but there's this understanding that we are respecting each other's space. Even if we're literally in the same room and a couple of feet apart, he is doing his thing, I am doing my thing, and we don't need to constantly be talking at each other and bothering each other and hugging, kissing, all that stuff. It's important, but there is a time and place. So honoring that separate time is very important as well.
So it's amazing, and I have to say that I heard about different cases now, COVID-19 situations. Let's say people are divorced, unfortunately, and they have mutual custody. And a child goes from one family to another, but they have different standards. Let's say the mother, I'm talking about a specific situation, lives with her mother, who's an elderly woman, and the father is alone. So he doesn't really care much about social distancing. But the mother of the child feels that he's killing her mother by not protecting himself from the child who goes back and forth. He's endangering the life of the mother. So did you hear any of the conflicts within the families, or how would you recommend to address them?
Yes, many, many, many conflicts regarding COVID-19 and the children. So different families that are divorced or that, the couple broke up, where they have children together and there's visitation, have handled this different ways. So in certain cases, one partner kind of kept the children or the child the entire time, with the understanding that when the numbers go down, we can resume regular visitation. What happens where one parent keeps the child kind of over the time that they were supposed to means usually that the other parent is going to get makeup time. Okay, so once things get better, that parent's going to be able to make up the time that they should have had with the child or the children in the future. Okay, in the situation where we're talking about now, I have several clients where either one parent is immunocompromised or lives in a place, so has a family or is living somewhere with immunocompromised people. The key there is communication. Okay, it's really, really important. Again, and usually the reason why relationships fail is because of that lack of communication. So now, especially where there's a child involved, communicating. So look, Dad, you get the kid as per our usual visitation schedule, so long as you promise to wear a mask whenever you go outside. Do you agree to this? Yes or no? Listen, if the answer is no, and this is Leona advice, mom should consider, what to do regarding sending the child over, because we don't want grandma and grandpa to die, right? So will this become contentious? Probably. Is it probably going to go to court? At the same time, that's something that families want to think about, right? So officially, visitation is required, but it's really on a case-by-case basis at this time. So mom has to think about what makes the most sense for her and her family. Have that open and honest conversation without the name calling, without certain tones, but just really an open, honest conversation where the goal is figuring out a plan so both parents can see the child, right? The focus needs to be on the child, not on one's hurt feelings and you're this and you're that. You're this and you're that happens a lot. Usually via text messages, guys, all that comes out in court. It looks horrible. Don't do it. Open, honest conversation. Very important.
You know what? I actually thought that when one of my close friends asked me about divorce attorney speaking about relationship, I wanted to answer him, and I know that he's watching our presentation right now, so I'm answering him, and I'm telling him, you know what? Even if divorce is taking place, maybe even in some ways more important than ever, that the relationship will continue to be respectful, and we should not, as parents, hurt our children, inciting them against each other.
Okay.
So there's a specific area of therapy for those who are going through divorce, not necessarily to prevent the divorce, because yes, we would like to give family therapy to couples that struggle, to prevent the divorce, to keep them together. But even when we see that that is impossible, we still want to provide them tools. How can they be divorced, communicating with each other on the benefit of their children? So I think that is exactly what you were saying right now. That's important knowledge, correct?
Very important knowledge. Absolutely.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course, absolutely. So I was raised in Brooklyn in public schools, although going to Jewish Sunday school, and
What about
enjoy
your
Brooklyn.
parents? What about your parents?
My parents came from the former Soviet Union. My mom is from Kishinev and my dad is from Odessa. And my husband is from Kiev. So
wow. So first of all, Ukraine and Moldova. Well, but it's an hour of ride, I think, Kishinev and Odessa. Beautiful. So Kishinev, Odessa, and Kiev. So it's a wonderful family. Beautiful. Wow. And you came and settled in a little Odessa, correct?
That's right.
Little
Absolutely.
Odessa, South Brooklyn, maybe Brighton Beach area, not far from there, and went to public school. Okay, and then?
And knew from the ripe old age of 7 that I was going to be an attorney. Wasn't too sure what they did, probably read about it in a book, but decided I was going to do this thing. And so I did.
Why?
Well, as I grew older and understood what attorneys did, I wanted to be able to fight for my clients' rights, make sure that justice was served. From a young age, what bothered me the most ever was when something unfair happened. So a little anecdote from when I was in kindergarten. So my mom originally put me into kindergarten at a yeshiva. I don't remember which one, no names, I don't remember. And apparently the teacher there wasn't very nice. And there were 2 boys being boys in the back row. And the teacher was so mean to the boys. And I thought it was so unfair that I cried so loudly. My mom was called in to take me away. Okay, that was day 1. She was, I think, 8.5 months pregnant with my brother. She came and took me away. And then the next day, the teacher did it again. And so I was, in fact, kicked out of yeshiva because the teacher was mean to the boys. And I cried because it wasn't fair. So I don't cry anymore. But what's important to me is to make sure that justice is served. And so that is my job day in and day out in my firm.
First of all, we welcome you to RAJE, which is a kind of a Jewish institute in yeshiva, probably to fix that impression of your childhood. I apologize on behalf of the
Oh,
teacher.
no, we're good. That had nothing to do with
I do
the
apologize, and I'm actually asking you please to forgive this lady.
Of
Let's
course.
forgive her. Let's forgive. We don't know what her life was or why she did, but
Sure.
at the same time, I want to tell you that that really shows about your greatness, because that is the emotional intelligence of feeling someone else's pain. Because when it speaks about our Jewish leader Moses, our teacher of all generations, it says that he was born, a child was born, and then he grew, and then the next sentence it says Moses grew and saw the suffering of his people. And why do you need to repeat again, grew and grew? Because first time he grew physically. But many people grow physically and they remain little children. They know only how to cry about themselves and they feel only their own pain. And that's what it means to be a child. Child cries, but only about himself or herself, and only because they need water, food, or they're in pain. But when a child is able to see something outside, that sign of that child is maturing, child is becoming bigger, in not in size but in horizons. So Moses grew when he saw the suffering, the pain of his brothers, and the rabbis say not only with his eyes, with his heart. And now one big rabbi, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, said, when you see somebody and you judge angrily, you see the problem and you want to judge, most likely you found something to improve in yourself, because the world is a mirror. But if you see a problem and you want to fix it, you probably found your mission in life. So you found your mission in life through pain.
I'd say it's accurate.
Isn't it amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing? Wow. Can you tell us a few words about your RAJE experience? How was it?
It was fantastic. So I loved RAJE, and I also love Judaism. So lots and lots of other Jewish experiences with other Jewish programs where there weren't any teachers anymore. So Judaism is a big part of my life, and it's one that I'm proud of. Regarding RAJE, so I joined RAJE when I was in undergrad at NYU, and planning to go to law school, and RAJE was amazing. So here was somewhere where I could rub elbows with my peers, all of whom were either studying or working and doing amazing things in their communities and personally and professionally, who were interested in learning more about their Judaism, just as I was. So some of my very favorite times were some of the debates we had, the amazing Shabbatons we went on, the incredible trip to Israel, and the personal connections that I made with the people who were in the programs. So I did leadership and I did fellowship. Both programs were fantastic, deepened my relationship to Judaism and also to Russian Jewish culture. It was a safe haven where we could all thrive, where there really weren't all that many others that could compare. So I really enjoyed my time with RAJE, and I'd say it helped me develop both personally as well as professionally.
I'm so happy. I also feel that RAJE maybe is becoming, maybe it was, but I think it's becoming a community where, let's say right now, I believe that hundreds, if not thousands of people will be watching you over time. And many of them actually also went through RAJE programs. Everybody, of course, continues on with their own lives. But I think it's so good that we have our own doctors from Kiev, our own attorneys were born in Brooklyn, but nevertheless, their parents from Odessa and Kishinev. And we are a community. Of course, we're not the ghetto. Of course, we want to be helpful to all people and all religions and everybody around us. But at the same time, we as a community strengthening each other and loving each other, respecting each other, creating a larger family. And with this largest family, also every single family is important. And you are on guard of making sure that the communication is good and the justice is served.
That's right.
And the rights are protected. Am I right?
That's correct.
It's unbelievable. So it's so important that when you have a sense of mission And this sense of mission is greater than you or greater than just, so to speak, making a salary, right? It's
Okay.
like discovering your own why. Am I right? You
Ah,
heard about
critical. You nailed it, Rabbi.
it's like, why am I doing it? I'm doing it because I want people's rights to be protected. And I'm standing on guard of human dignity and children's dignity in family situations and making sure that either families live together in peace. And if they need to, we have other ways to do it respectfully.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to tell our viewers and our larger RAJE community?
If anybody would ever like to chat, either regarding their personal situation, or if you're a student, or even if you're not a student and would like to learn more about family law, I would be happy to speak with you at any time. Just send me a private message and we'll schedule that call.
Amazing. So in other words, if people want to think about, consider legal profession, or people actually maybe even go to law school, like my son actually went to Cardozo and now practicing law in Israel. So internship may be crucial.
Right?
So anybody who wants to know more about your specific area of law that's so human, and I think I want to tell you something. I want to give you a blessing that you should make more peace and less divorces in a way. And also, I would not be surprised, Leona, if one day you'll have a double degree in law and social work.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All the best to you.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
the opportunity.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
wonderful rest of your day.
We want to keep in touch, and I'm sure we're going to do it again. Thank you. All the best to you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.